Good morning, family and friends. This is Cynthia from Cynthia's Crafts and More, and I just wanted to go over a few things. First, I know it's the end of May, but May is National Mental Health Month, and I encourage you, if you're having mental health issues, problems, to seek help. I have dealt with depression on and off for years, and going to see a therapist has really helped. There was a time where I was just so down, in every little thing that Carlos did just like triggered a negative response in me, which is not good. And it got to the point where I wanted to beat the living daylights out of this boy, because he would just not listen, and just, it was not good. I recognized what I was going through, and I called and set up an appointment with a therapist. Worked my way through the issues I was having, not being able to understand what Carlos was going through. Carlos was, or has been, diagnosed with extreme ADHD, moderate bipolar, and he has cognitive delays. And I was having a hard time dealing with that. I was more or less treating him as if he didn't have any of those diagnoses. And it was really frustrating, because I just felt like I wasn't getting anywhere with him. So I did go out and seek help for that. And also, I have a bunch of health issues, which gets me down. I have deteriorating disc in my low back, and it's putting pressure on my nerves that go down into my legs, and if I try to do too much, I end up with numbness going down my legs, and there's times where I've fallen because all of a sudden, boom, it's my lungs, my legs have gone numb. And I have this little life alert button that if I fall and Keith's not home, I can push the little button, and they'll send somebody out to help me. And then they'll check me over to make sure that, nothing's wrong and whatnot. Sorry if I had fractured a tooth the other day. So I'm just waiting to get into the dentist to get it fixed. So where was I? Oh, my back and legs. So I'm on disability because of that, and I also have sleep apnea, and I did not know I had that until I went and had a procedure to have my gallbladder out. And excuse me, I guess they had to cut it short because my oxygen saturation was going way too low. Excuse me. And, but at the time, they told me I had my gallbladder removed. Well, a couple years ago, I was having like really bad heartburn and pain. They did, I think it was a CT scan, and there's my gallbladder. And it's like all the reports were saying, that there's gallbladder there. And I'm like, no, that's not possible because I had it removed back in such and such. I think it was like 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. And so I had to go through and get the rest of their gallbladder removed. And the doctor did say, the surgeon said that it was a partial gallbladder, and he had never really seen that before. And I told him, well, the hospital that I had it done at was the same hospital that you performed the surgery on. So before this actual surgery, he went in to the records and looked and saw that the doctor had put removal of gallbladder. So, and unfortunately that doctor is no longer in business here in Arizona. So, don't know where he went to. But then about, 2018, I think it was, Carlos was gone for the weekend. I was home, Keith was at work, and I was just having a really hard time breathing. I put my CPAP on to see if that would help. Didn't help. I did breathing treatments. Nothing was helping. Keith got home. He took one look at me. He goes, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No." I can't breathe. And so he took me to the emergency room. Excuse me. And they had me back. They put me on oxygen. They gave me a shot of morphine to help try and relax me because I was having a panic attack and anxiety, which didn't help any. So I do deal with panic attacks, anxiety attacks, and they went to give me a second shot, and don't really want to say I passed out, but I passed out and I lost all body functions. Yes, I peed and pooped on myself. But I did not know this until the next day because they had to put a trach down my throat or something to go down into my lungs to help breathe. Also found out that I had a collapsed lung and pneumonia, which is why I was having such a hard time breathing. And they said I may have done more damage when I tried to use my CPAP machine to try and breathe. So from that point on, I just have never been able to get my full oxygen saturation up to where it needs to be. So that's why I'm on oxygen. I'm on it 24/7 now. And they diagnosed me with COPD. No, I never smoked, but I lived with smokers. Many of my relatives are smokers, and being around them, they smoked in their house, and so I have issues with being able to catch my breath, which causes the anxiety and then the panic attacks. So every time I'm in the hospital, I am in there for at least a week. It's not a simple, oh, here you go, send you on your way. No. I have never been able to have children of my own. Carlos is actually my stepson. But I have been in his life since he was 5, 6 years old. And he's my son. He's here in my heart. He's my son. And he calls me his mom and tells me every day that I'm the best mom he's ever had. And that just makes me cry, because I'm so thankful for him. Shortly after Keith and I had gotten married back in 2008, I ended up having one of my ovaries removed because I had big cysts on it. And they were going to try and save the ovary, but it wasn't possible. They had huge cysts that were going from basically halfway into the ovary itself. And they said that would have caused false pregnancies, to where, my body thought I was pregnant, but I wasn't. Did the little test, it said, yes, I'm pregnant, but then stuff happened, and no. So then about a year later, I ended up having my regular test done, monthly or yearly women test, and they did ultrasounds. And found that I had cysts now on that ovary. And she said, one of two things: we can take that ovary out and leave the uterus, or we can just remove everything. And Keith and I talked about it, and instead of having to put me through another surgery if I had had the uterus removed, I just said, just remove everything. And that was very depressing for me, because I really wanted to have my own kids. And Keith and I talked, it's like, well, we can always adopt. But by that time, Carlos, and he just kept asking, well, when can I have a brother? When can I have a sister? When are you going to have a baby? And it would just break my heart, because I would tell him, it's like, I'm sorry, right now I just can't have a baby. And that put me into depression. Let me back up a little bit. When I was about 5, 6 years old, my dad was building a porch off the second story of our house. He had everything done except for a bottom rail going down the steps. And I was out there sitting on the steps with a friend of mine, and I went to get up, and I fell through the hole. My mom was at the top of the steps. She couldn't get me. My dad was at the bottom. He couldn't get me. And I ended up landing on a pile of bricks and kind of just like bouncing. Had the wind knocked out of me. And they took me to the emergency room. They checked me over. The only thing they didn't do, from what my mom could remember, is they did not do any x-rays, because I'd gotten up and I was walking around, so they figured, no need to worry about broken bones. Well, when I was about 21, I was in a car accident, and they did x-rays of my spine all the way from my neck down to my pelvis, and found out that instead of being like this, my pelvis is like this. So which made the uterus kind of like drop, and which would have made it difficult for me to get pregnant anyway, from what the doctors had told me. Fast move forward. So the depression, it's okay if you're feeling depressed, and if it goes on for more than a month, talk to your doctor. Get some help. And I've been dealing with depression since I was a teenager, and didn't really get any help until I moved out to Arizona. When my grandparents passed away, it was really hard. That depression set in. Didn't want to do anything. Didn't want to be around anybody. And then when my dad got really sick, and we almost lost him, they had to put him in a medicated induced coma. And he was in there for about 3 months. They did that because his lungs were full of 3 different types of mold. And they figured that he had gotten that from where he was working, because they had torn down a wall and there was just like tons of mold. And shortly after my dad was going through all this and stuff, one of his workers started having the same symptoms. So my mom suggested that he go get tested, and he was able to get on medication and stuff, so he didn't end up having to go through what my dad went through. And they said that if he came out of it, they ended up having to do a trach here, because they left the one going down the throat in longer than what they should have left it in. So they had to put it in here, and they did no kind of exercises for my dad. Between my mom and my sisters and my brothers and we did exercises with my dad's legs and feet, so that his legs wouldn't atrophy. Well, my dad ended up with drop foot. Shortly after he got home from the hospital, and they said that he would never walk and he'd never be able to talk. He proved the doctors wrong. Through speech therapy, he was able to talk again. Through physical therapy and the determination to want to walk me down the aisle and not be in a wheelchair and take me down, I told him I didn't care. If he had to be in a wheelchair, as long as he could take me down that aisle to meet Keith, then I'd be fine with that. But he worked and worked and worked, and he was able to actually walk me down the aisle. But he was on the oxygen and everything. And it got to several years later, where he just got tired of having to have his lungs drained and all the gunk that he would cough up every day, and he was ready to go meet Jesus. He made his peace with everything, and he ended up dying 2 days before my mom's 70th birthday. Right? Yeah, because he's been gone 6 years. So it would have been my 50th birthday. I would have been 50. And Carlos and I were able to go down and meet him, or to see him before he lost consciousness. And that threw me into a depression, losing my daddy. And that's been 6 years, and I still miss him every day. I miss my grandmas and my grandpa every day. And I had some really good friends that came down with cancer, and I lost some of them survived. I have a very special friend, Maria, who I've asked for prayers for, because she was told she only had 3 months to live. Her lung cancer came back. And with the prayers and everything that everybody's been sending to her, she has been feeling better. So I just ask that you guys continue to pray for her. She's like a sister to me. We grew up, we've been friends since, I don't know, maybe 2nd grade, I think. It's been a long time. And we're 56 years old. Well, I'm 56. She's 56 too. So that's been really hard for me to deal with, knowing that I might be losing her. And a couple weeks ago, my sister called to tell me that my auntie had been in the hospital for a week, having breathing difficulties. Her COPD acted up, and I asked her, I was like, okay, well, does she have COVID? And they said no, she didn't have COVID. It was just her COPD, the weather changes and all that. Well, she got better. She got somewhat better. They put her into a rehab center where she just wasn't able to get any better, and she passed away. So it's been 2 weeks since she's passed away, and her and my uncle had agreed that neither one wants to have any type of service. They want to be cremated. So my uncle was having her cremated. He should have her ashes back by now. He didn't want anybody coming out to visit him. And he's just a couple hours away from me, but he doesn't want us to come up. He's just not ready for it yet. And he's going to be at a loss. Sorry. And that has just like tailspin some of the depression back and making things worse. And me not being able to do a lot of things. I have a hard time cleaning and getting things done. I've been working on my room for months now, trying to get it organized so I have my crafts in here and stuff, and it's just, I look at the stuff and I just get into a huge depression because it's hard for me to get things done. I've got dust all over everywhere. My floors need to be swept. The whole house needs like a huge thorough cleaning, and I just not able to do it. And then Keith works. He goes in and works from like 4 to noon every day, so it's like I don't want to keep asking him to do stuff, but things are just getting, excuse me, sorry, so out of control. And our finances aren't that great, so I can't pay anybody to come in to help me. And all my close friends have all moved away, so they're like hours away from from here. Moved to other states, or live in other states, and with their family and works and stuff like that. They just can't come. And it's like I'm having problems with my computer. Every time I go to try and edit a video, it takes me like a day and a half just to get what I want, and then to the point where I'm just like, I'm just uploading this to YouTube, and it's pure raw footage. The good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful. But I have been making some gifts for some friends, for their kids. One of them, Miss Mazzy, she asked to be baptized. And I made her a really cute little sign for about being baptized, and I did post that video, the one right before this one. And I need to get that mailed to her. And that has helped. Being able to do crafts has helped. And it's like I gave my worries, my depression, everything over to Jesus. Ask Him to help me through it. And my friend Chad over at Adler Farms, he says there's no such thing as a bad day. There's good days and there are better days. So I've been trying to go by those words from him. Words of encouragement. Jimmy Houston, from Jimmy Houston Outdoors. Yes, the big fishing guru. I used to watch him when I was a little kid. He has a daily devotion that he does. So I've been listening to that daily. And that has helped. And I listened to, or I watched the Homesteading Pastor. He has devotions once a week, I think it is. And then just other videos throughout that him and his wife, Robbie Lynn, post. Has helped me a lot. My friend Gerwin over at Jandera, she's been a huge source of help with prayers. Michael over at Frog Foot Holler, a little bit of a tongue twister. So he's been keeping me in his prayers, and my friend Shannon from Journey Along with Shannon, Joy from Joy Blessed Life. I'm trying to think of who else. And I know there's a couple others. The Walkers from Walker Farm Fam, Gary and Cassie. They have Keeping Up with the Walkers, where they do prayer request. So those are just a few of the people that I've let know. And as you can tell, the more I talk, the more I cough because my throat gets dry. And right now with that tooth, yes, I probably shouldn't be drinking Dr. Pepper, but I just didn't feel like making coffee this morning. One of those days. Yes, I've got water somewhere right here on the floor that I do drink. I have this here, which is 40 ounces of water. I fill up with water. I try and drink at least 2 to 3 of those a day, along with my coffee and my Dr. Pepper. And it's another thing I've noticed with everything that's been happening the last few weeks. I've been drinking more Dr. Pepper. I'm up to 2.5 bottles of Dr. Pepper a day, where I was down to a half a bottle because I was trying to get away from that. And I had actually stopped drinking sodas altogether. But then when I had gone probably about 4 years of not drinking any sodas. But when my daddy passed away, I started drinking that soda again. And before I quit, I was literally drinking like a 6-pack of soda a day. Yes, I know it's not good for me. But that's what I would drink, where, you got people who drink coffee. That much coffee a day. But anyway, I'm getting off track here. Mental health. There's a website you can go to. It's called Vibrant. V as in Victor. I as in Indiana. B as in boy. R as in Robert. A as in apple. N as in Nancy. T as in Tom. And that's vibrant.org. They're there to help you through any of the mental health issues that you have, whether it's bipolar, depression. If you feel your mind's not whole, your heart's not whole, seek help. Ask for prayers to help you through this. I advocate for mental health. And because I've been through it. And seeking help doesn't mean you're weak. That means you're strong. Strong enough to ask for help.